want to talk about the misperceptions you see on YouTube in regards to DNF Duel Fighter. Now, if I type in DNF Duel on YouTube and I just scroll down, you'll see things like, what happened to DNF Duel, the anime fighter that got abandoned. This is why you can't take DNF Duel seriously. DNF Duel sucks. So you see all these extreme titles and extreme thumbnails, and you'll think, wow, this game isn't good. Like, wow, yeah, I remember hearing about DNF Duel, but it's just, guess it's not a good game. DNF Duel's wasted potential. DNF Duel, great game, don't buy it. I'm here to tell you that all these people are full of shit. Every single one of them. And this actually isn't the case when it comes to DNF Duel. We'll talk about the game. But what these hyperbolic thumbnails and titles don't tell you is that the people making these videos aren't fighting game players. They are YouTube video game content creators who happen to be making videos about fighting games. There's a big difference. So they're looking from the outside in when it comes to the FGC. And so essentially what happens is that they care about the algorithm, they care about getting their channel newer channel members, newer subscribers, newer view counts, more likes. And so they will talk about a fighting game that comes out, like any game, whether it's outside or inside fighting games. They'll talk about any game that comes out. They'll pre-purchase or purchase the game when it comes out, play it for 5 minutes and make a review, only to have never played the game again because they need to move on to whatever is the newest trend. And so they don't actually spend time talking about the game. When they do talk about the game, it doesn't come from a standpoint of understanding fighting games. So they don't know what they're talking about because they don't regularly play fighting games. They haven't played one fighting game in depth. They haven't been competitive in a single fighting game. So they're talking about an entire genre that they don't know about. And it makes sense because they're video game content creators. So they're going to know less about a niche subgenre in video games, which is fighting games. And so they'll cast judgment upon a game after playing it for, again, less than an hour. And to be fair, they're saying it based on when the game first came out, right? Or within the first day or the first weeks. So however the state of the game is at that time is set in stone. It's written in on a stone tablet. And because how the YouTube algorithm works, their videos are going to remain here 5 months later, 2 years later, years later, right? And the video is about the game state after the first 2 hours. You see what I'm saying? So it's facetious, it's not in good faith, because at the end of the day, they have bigger channels. And the reason their channels are bigger is because they island hop from game to game, depending on what's trendy and what's new. So they successfully fed the algorithm in order to have a bigger channel, in order for their thumbnail to come up first when you type in DNF Duel. And all that results in you seeing a misleading video about a game to where it's in a completely different state than what they're talking about. And the person talking about it doesn't know fighting games. Let's actually talk about DNF Duel and the state of the game as of November of 2024. So to start off, DNF Duel is undeniably a beginner fighter. However, there is still a ladder of execution difficulty to achieve higher damage output. So it's a very neutral fighter. There is no dizzy for taking too many hits like Street Fighter. There's no negative penalty for not approaching or attacking enough like BlazBlue. Your gameplay isn't being herded into a specific tempo or a style of play. So there are simple input versions of regular special techniques. However, doing the input the traditional way reaps a reward, which is your MP recovers faster after doing the attack, allowing you to combo longer and have quicker access to your magic moves. So instead of making the entire game built around simple inputs like Under Night and Birth, Persona, Grand Blue, DBZ Fighters, or Cross Tag, it is instead optional, and considering the benefit of using traditional inputs, this means that using simple inputs is in a way a negative thing, sort of like you're being punished for using simple inputs. So as a result, it's something you don't want to get used to when in a competitive match. So being true to an actual competent beginner fighter game, it has a built-in system to encourage you to learn traditional fighter game inputs. Also, there are no auto combos at all. And to be fair, I haven't played every character, so let me amend that statement to say there are no universal mechanic-based auto combos. Instead, there are chain combos which are easy to do, especially in combination with simplified special inputs like I mentioned earlier. But again, there's no single button auto combos. So it's a beginner fighting game, but a fundamental one. The biggest universal strength a player has in a 2D fighter is knowing when to approach and when not to approach, and effectively mixing your offense with attacks or grabs or overheads. These skills are extremely transitive to DNF Duel. There's less middleman universal mechanics or bloat to obstruct fundamental fighting game skills from being effective. Speaking of universal mechanics, this game has none besides an invincible roll to get out of pressure. Notice it's a defensive universal mechanic. Many other games like Tekken 8 and DBZ Fighters will have neutral skips the whole cast can access, which destroys the neutral and thus the integrity of the game. This game even has less supers than anime fighter contemporaries. Every character only has one awakening skill that can only be accessed when your health is low. In my experience, playing online is rarely even used and doesn't take a significant amount of damage like other games. So if you want to consider supers a universal mechanic, then technically DNF Duel has two, but as you can see, it has far less than many other games and none of them significantly impact the gameplay. So this is why you can't trust video game journalism. I'm not quite going to the level of Gamergate of the old era, but if you think about the atmosphere of today, then video game journalism is essentially Twitter and YouTube. It's not the articles on Kotaku, it's not Bleeding Cool, it's not traditional media, but it's a decentralized media, which is a good and a bad thing, right? Now more people have access to talk about these games and gain a reach they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. But however, the same problem is the fact that anyone can talk about it. And so there's no credentials needed, unlike legacy media, but the con is that there's no credentials needed. So anyone can talk about a fighting game and they don't play fighting games, and there's no certificate given out to say, hey, I know what I'm talking about, you can trust me. It just has to be word of mouth, sharing the channel, feeding the algorithm, and oh, I trust this guy because he's known in the community, he has a big channel. And so naturally you'll think, okay, the bigger channels like a Maximilian or a JMT Croft or a Rooflemonger, they'll think, okay, they're big channels, I can trust them. But even them you can't really trust sometimes. You see the problem? You get YouTubers who don't even play fighting games, who will speak from the outside in about a game and judge it and tell you its worth and even tell you not to buy it or to buy it. Based on what? Gotta be careful. That's all I want to say. DNF Duel is a great game. Go out and buy it. I highly recommend it. Don't worry about how many people are playing. Don't worry about whether it's a Discord fighter. Don't worry about elements like those that have nothing to do with how good the fighting game is. If you like a fighting game, go out and try many different fighting games regardless of the player base. And if you like it, then other people like it. If you think it's a good game, other people think it's a good game. And there's going to be people playing that. Whether it's through Parsec, whether it's through emulators, whether it's through Radman VPN, like people will be playing good fighting games. That's one of the things you'll notice about fighting games. In games in general, but fighting games especially. Good fighting games are always played in some way, shape, or form, even if it's officially supported or it's not. So if you like it, chances are there will be other people who like it too, and you'll be able to find players. That's all I gotta say, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you like the video. I'm out.